A new Classic Chandler season begins on Saturday afternoon on Radio 4 with The Long Goodbye, starring Toby Stephens as Chandler's iconic Californian detective Philip Marlowe. In the afternoon play Now, Patrick Stewart plays Raymond Chandler and Clive Swift is Alfred Hitchcock in their famous collaboration, Strangers on a Train.
By 1950, I had nearly pulled myself free of the primeval slime which is Hollywood. I had scored 2 modest successes with my scripts for Double Indemnity and The Blue Dahlia, both of which were nominated for Academy Awards, which, of course, they did not win. I had also, in my own humble terms, earned a great deal of money from this literary prostitution, far more than I earned from the creation of the novels upon which I believe whatever slender reputation I have will be built. I had, meanwhile, developed bronchitis, skin allergies, and shingles, all of which were settling nicely into becoming chronic conditions. The time to flee from the madness of the movie business was long overdue. Then, through my agent, I unexpectedly received an invitation from Mr. Alfred Hitchcock. He wanted me to write a screenplay based upon a novel called Strangers on a Train by a new writer called Miss Patricia Highsmith. I thought I might like Hitchcock, who was that rare thing in Hollywood, an intelligent director of imagination and humor. My dear wife was not enthusiastic. I should have listened to Sissy.
Strangers on a Film by Stephen Wyatt, starring Patrick Stewart as Raymond Chandler and Clive Swift as Alfred Hitchcock.
Well, first of all, we tried to get John Steinbeck for the screenplay of Strangers. Then we tried for Thornton Wilder. There was even a chance for a while that Dashiell Hammett might do it. He'd had writer's block for nearly a decade, so that would have been something. In all, 8 eminent writers turned me down. Then suddenly there was the possibility of obtaining the services of Raymond Chandler. He had the reputation of being a difficult man, but he was undoubtedly the caliber of writer we needed. Now, contrary to popular opinion, I like writers. I enjoy talking to them, and I count several writers among my good friends. If actors are cattle, then writers are thoroughbred horses. Put them at their ease, and they'll take you where you need to go. I like Mr. Chandler's work, so as I said to my wife, why shouldn't I like him too? I should have listened to Alma.
When a doorbell goes in one of my novels, it is usually a very bad idea to open the door. Outside could be a man with a gun, or a beautiful woman without a gun, but with murderous intentions. Instead, I took delivery of a package from the studio of Warner Brothers. There was a copy of Miss Patricia Highsmith's novel. There was a treatment for the screenplay provided by a Mr. Whitfield Cook. The novel was a silly enough story. But in outlining a way the novel could be reshaped for the screen, Mr. Whitfield Cook had made suggestions that were even sillier. No wonder they needed a proper writer on board. Apart from reasons given previously for saying yes, did I forget to mention the prospect of very large sums of money?
In vino veritas. In 1950, I was not at the pinnacle of my career. After making a stiflingly dull studio movie called The Paradigm Case, I had gone independent. I made a film called Rope. It was a technical triumph and a box office disaster. Then I returned to England to make a film with Ingrid Bergman. I was finally coming home, the great director with one of the greatest stars in the world on my arm. Do you know that wonderful Greek word, hubris? Under Capricorn, cost a fortune and died at the box office. The English press, of course, was delighted. So I made a smaller picture called Stage Fright, starring Marlene Dietrich, on the principle that nothing starring that ultimate professional Frau Dietrich could be without merit. It was. I was finished as an independent producer. I needed the support of a Hollywood studio again, so I sought what I call a run-for-cover project, a project with which I could convince the brothers Warner would be a classic Hitchcock movie and a big box-office success. I started reading Miss Highsmith's book, appropriately enough, on a train.
Warner Brothers offered me $2,500 a week for a minimum of 5 weeks' work. When I first worked in Hollywood with the indefatigable Mr. Billy Wilder, I received $750 a week, and I thought it riches beyond the dreams of avarice. Oh, the devil knows how to tempt a writer. I talked it all over with Sissy. She was playing her beloved Chopin on the $3,000 Steinway I'd bought her. The poor darling was not in good health, and I was determined not to leave her. Certainly not to return to work in the studios where I had spent so many unhappy hours incarcerated in the aptly named writer's block. She thought the job would make me very unhappy. So I announced that I would only accept the contract if I could work on the screenplay at home in La Jolla. If they wanted me, Mr. Hitchcock would have to travel 100 miles from Los Angeles for script conferences. I did not for one moment think he would agree.
A memo went the rounds of Warner Studios penned by myself. Since the mountain won't come to Mohammed, Mohammed is going down, because I thought, why not? And, of course, there's La Jolla itself. No billboards or concessions or beachfront shacks for the citizens of La Jolla. In fact, the place has an air of cool decency and good manners, which is quite startling in California. Then I remembered Mr. Chandler was brought up and educated in England, so there was an affinity between us I had not previously realized. But then he went to a public school. I, the son of shopkeepers from Leightonston, of course, did not. As I arrived, I made a mental note. You could shoot a very nasty murder in the discreet suburbs of La Jolla.
From the window, I saw the limousine stop and Mr. Hitchcock's considerable bulk slowly emerge. I took a drink to steady my nerves. Only one. I intended to be on best behavior.
I was intrigued. This was one of the few writers in the field of crime fiction who deserved respect. A man who was obsessed by darkness, death, and suspense. A man, in short, after my own heart. Mr. Chandler.
Mr. Hitchcock.
He was in his 60s, 10 years at least older than myself. Tense and suspicious looking. I'd have cast him as a nosy neighbor or a down-at-heels newspaper reporter, but there was a bright, challenging look behind the spectacles, hopefully not entirely due to alcohol.
Does anybody in the civilized world not know what Mr. Alfred Hitchcock looks like? He'd made himself the most visible movie director there's ever been. It must have been one of his greatest artistic achievements. This is a pleasure, Mr. Hitchcock.
Oh, please, call me Hitch. Everybody does, including my wife, Hitch, without the cock.
You may call me Raymond, maybe even Ray. Not everybody is encouraged to do that.
Well, both of us, I believe, were brought up in England, where such intimacy could only be assumed after 30 years of acquaintance.
My feelings exactly. Hitch.
Ray.
Please, Hitch, come in. Welcome to La Jolla. Frankly, La Jolla is a gilded suburb full of barren old women and arthritic billionaires, but my wife has always wanted to live here.
You have children, then?
No. Why? Do you?
A daughter. She wants to be an actress, foolish girl.
This way, please. The view from our living room over the bay has excited admiration. A radio writer who came to visit burst into tears when he saw it.
They're like that.
This is my study. Please, take a seat.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say...
shall we start? I don't expect you like wasting time. Juanita, my secretary, has laid out all the stuff the studio sent me, the novel, the treatment, and here's my notebook and pen. So, when you're ready, Hitch.
In any collaboration, I think it's always best to get to know each other a bit first. We're two passengers at the very start of our journey, two strangers meeting on a film.
Well, in that case, maybe we could have a drink.
Of course. Maybe we could go and sit in your delightful garden. I'm sorry, directors like telling people what to do. So, tell me, Raymond, do you have an explanation?
An explanation for what?
For why you write about the things you do.
What things?
Well, violence, fear, murder, perversion.
But aren't your films about these things, too?
Oh, yes, I love making people very nervous or very scared, preferably both, and particularly women.
So, do you have an explanation?
When people ask me, I say it's because when I was young, my mother said boo to me.
Does that satisfy them?
It satisfies me because they don't know how to take it. But the real explanation for my interest in terror is that when I was very naughty as a boy, my father took me to the police station with a note, and I was locked up in a prison cell overnight.
Is that true?
True enough. How about you?
I found a genre, the detective novel, and I've tried to the best of my ability to write something of value within it.
And your genre involves murderous blondes and endless violence, not to mention a large number of people leaving this life in very perverse and rather inventive ways.
That may be, but if you take the longer view, most of the world's surviving literature has been concerned with violent death. Consider the carnage of battle in Homer's Iliad, Oedipus tearing out his eyes because he murdered his father, the end of Hamlet, with bodies strewn everywhere.
Oh, how I wish I'd had the benefit of a classical education. I must remember to look at A Midsummer Night's Dream again.
What I am saying is that tales of violence and murder like ours are in a great tradition. It's stories about people having the moral vapors in a middle-class drawing room, which are a modern aberration. I didn't make a personal choice. I work within a tradition.
Of course, I quite understand.
We don't seem to be doing very much work.
I think we're doing quite a lot.
Then maybe we should have some lunch.
Oh, perfect. Well, will Mrs. Chandler be joining us?
I'm afraid she's not in good health.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Maybe the next time you visit, if she's feeling better.
That would be delightful. He made us sound like the mad woman in the attic. Nobody in Hollywood ever saw her when he was working at Paramount. Rumor had it that she was nearly 20 years older than Chandler himself. Billy Wilder thought he was ashamed of being seen in public with a woman who looked like his mother. I adore family secrets, don't you?
The Lady Vanishes was one of Sis's favorite movies, so I thought that maybe next time she would like to come out and meet him, if she chose. But it would be her decision. I wasn't having Mr. Hitchcock nosing into our affairs. Did we have children?
I believe you mentioned lunch.
Lunch will be very simple. I'm afraid I've no time for fancy food.
Raymond did not lie. The Chandler's cook was obviously on day release from a chain gang. So, tell me what happens.
Happens?
In Miss Highsmith's book.
You know what happens.
Yes, but I'd like you to tell me.
Oh. Directors do seem to make a habit of getting me to do this.
You said you felt we hadn't done much work.
Very well. At the start, two men meet on a train. One of them's weird, a bit of a psycho. He's called Bruno. He wants to kill his dad, whom he hates, so that he can get his hands on his inheritance. The other man wants to get married to a rich senator's daughter, but he's already married, and his wife won't divorce him. He's called Guy. So Bruno the psycho says, let's swap murders. I do yours, you do mine. I kill your wife, you kill my father. That way, neither of us can be traced, and both of us get what we want.
In a nutshell, perfect.
Now, to my mind, there's a lot that doesn't work with this scenario.
Agreed, but do carry on.
Well, Bruno, the psycho, somehow gets the impression that Guy has consented to his proposal, which, from my point of view, is problematic, to say the least.
Agreed.
So, anyway, as a result of this still problematic conversation on a train, Bruno decides to go away and murder Guy's wife. He does murder her in a fairground, and then he comes back to Guy and says, I've done my murder, you do yours. Now, in the novel...
Never mind what's in the novel. That's our story, The Swap Murders. That's what I bought.
You don't care about the rest?
Not at all.
Even though you paid a lot of money for it?
Well, as a matter of fact, I got it quite cheap. It's a first novel, and her agents didn't know it was Alfred Hitchcock buying the rights until it was too late.
Can I say something before we go any further?
Of course.
In the original novel, the main character, Guy, the one with the problem wife, is an architect. This makes him an intelligent and substantial character. In the treatment you sent me, he's been turned into a tennis player. Now, it seems a complete betrayal.
Let me tell you why. There's a sequence in my head. Here is our main character, Guy, playing a tennis match. As the shots go between him and his opponent, the heads of the crowd go with the ball. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Only one man's head isn't moving, and that's our other main character, Bruno, who's already murdered Guy's wife. And his head isn't moving. He's just staring at Guy, while the other heads go left, right, left, right. You like it?
I still think he'd be better as an architect.
I value your opinion.
But
let's talk further when you've completed your first treatment.
Don't you want to...
This has been a delightful day. Thank you so much. Sorry, I think I trod on something.
This is Taki, our cat. We've had her a long time. Both Sissy and I are very fond of her. Do you like cats, Hitch?
I admire them. Efficient, conscienceless killers.
I should have remembered that all directors are sadists. It's just that some of them hide it better than others. But I was a professional, and I was being well paid to do a job. So I reread the Highsmith book, and I reread Mr. Whitfield Cook's treatment in order to prepare my own. And I decided I would demonstrate to Mr. Hitchcock why he was wrong. I did not tell Sissy what Mr. Hitchcock had said about our cat.
The more I thought about this project, the more I knew it was right for me. I started storyboarding sequences. I did some location work. But as Alma pointed out, I did not as yet have a script. And as I reminded her, writers are thoroughbred horses. They need to be given their head before getting them to do what you need.
Hitch!
Raymond!
Come into the garden.
He looked badly hungover and ill-tempered, but that didn't stop him from carrying on drinking. So I did my best to put him at his ease. It was still too soon to tighten the reins.
Mr. Hitchcock held forth that morning on a great variety of subjects, doubtless intended to inspire me. How he'd shot the opening and closing images of a rather dull silent film of his called Champagne through a champagne glass, about watching the great German director Murnau at work and hearing him say, "What you see on the set does not matter. All that matters is what you see on the screen." He even talked about the grapes he was growing and how Prohibition had destroyed the California wine industry and how it was finally recovering. Everything, damn him, except my new treatment for strangers on a train.
Had probably never been done before,
Hitch,
even...
Can we discuss my treatment?
Of course.
Well,
it's very interesting, but you appear to have gone back to the Highsmith book.
Miss Highsmith has intellectual pretensions, and I think she's overdosed on Dostoevsky in her adolescence, but still, there's no denying it.
No denying what?
The book's way better than Mr. Cook's treatment.
In what ways?
It makes more sense.
But from my point of view as a filmmaker, that is not necessarily an advantage.
So, you're still convinced, despite my treatment, that Guy, the man who wants to marry a senator's daughter, should be a tennis player instead of an architect?
I'm afraid I've already shot a lot of the tennis match footage.
Can we go back to the beginning again?
Whose beginning?
Highsmith's. Spare me the fatuities of Mr. Cook's version.
You want to tell me her story again?
No, I don't! I hate telling directors stories again and again. It's like being in one of the circles of hell. But what else can we do? That's where the problems start. At the beginning of the film, with two men meeting on a train.
I have to disagree.
Oh?
The film begins with a symphony of intercut feet. Two men revealed by their style of footwear and the luggage they carry, heading for a train. At this point, we don't see their faces, but the feet tell us they're destined, fated to meet, and their lives will be interlinked.
Okay. Then they start talking. And one of them, the crazy one Bruno, makes a proposal. He suggests they swap murders.
For what they say, I'm relying on you.
I just don't see how I can show Guy accepting this proposal there and then. Either he thinks it's a great idea and gives a clear go-ahead, in which case there's no tension, no story, or maybe he's stupid as a punch-drunk boxer after 3 bottles of bourbon and just doesn't understand, or maybe he's simply not paying attention. Well, Now I come to think of it, there's another problem with the opening. Are these guys supposed to be pansies?
I beg your pardon?
Homos. The way this effeminate weirdo called Bruno tries to talk to this other guy, the athletic guy who's a tennis player, or, in my opinion, an architect, it's like he's hitting on him.
Is this a problem?
They could look like perverts.
Aren't we all?
Well, for my part,
Nothing is said. It's all in glances. You should see my film Rope. Those who think they know will know, those who don't won't. It just makes it more interesting. I thought of getting Robert Walker to play Bruno. He's played so many clean-cut boys, and he's just out of rehab.
I just don't think in this way.
Well, if we thought the same way, what's the point of working together?
Okay. We don't say they're homos, but somebody somewhere will think it. But still, there's a big problem. Why does Guy, the intellectual tennis player, agree? Or seem to agree? Seem to agree to the extent that Bruno goes away and strangles his wife. It all moves too fast.
Well, this is where your excellent dialogue comes in.
But if I don't believe it, I can't write the dialogue.
Well, you're sure about that?
Of course I'm sure. It has somehow to make sense.
Sense as in common sense. Common sense has nothing to do with the movies. They're dreams.
Well, I happen to be a writer of fiction like Miss Highsmith, and I need a certain plausibility.
My wife has recently been reading your latest novel, The Little Sister.
I'm flattered, but it is not
Alma trained in script continuity. She has the sharpest eye for inconsistency I know. Now, in chapter 15 of your novel, Marlowe turns to the little sister of the title. She's told him about her brother who's in deep criminal trouble, but in her view is not the black sheep of the family. And suddenly, Marlowe realizes that the black sheep is her sister Layla, who's a movie star. He makes a connection.
And your point is?
Well, if you go back to chapter 2, the little sister simply says that her brother is not the black sheep of the family. She makes no mention of her sister Layla. So how does Marlowe know this, unless he's picked this information out of the ether?
I'm sorry. People read through my books before they're published, and they should have noticed this. I'll write to my publisher, and I will...
Raymond, Ray, it doesn't matter.
But it does! You're saying I'm a bad writer.
No, not at all, Raymond. My point is that nobody cares. Unless you're obsessed by continuity like my wife, you wouldn't notice. People don't worry about these inconsistencies. Your books are doubtless filled with them.
Oh, so I'm not only a bad writer, I'm a lazy craftsman.
Oh, Raymond, Ray, calm down. I'm not blaming you for this. I don't think it matters. My point is that our public are children who want to be told a wonderful story. If the story you tell is intriguing enough, they're happy to lie back and enjoy it. Plausibility doesn't bother them.
So what do you need me for? Just feel free to go and find somebody whose writing you do respect.
Well, I do respect you as a writer.
Then listen to what I am saying.
I am listening.
Okay. So here, for the third time of asking, is my problem as a writer. The hero, Guy, if we can call him a hero, in some homo way agrees to a murder. Why? How?
The symphony of feet will help you. Audiences will be expecting these two men to interconnect in some way. All I need from you is the dialogue.
I think we'd better move on to something else.
Well, willingly. Consequential narration doesn't interest me.
Bruno murders Guy's wife in an amusement park. Then he goes to Guy and says, "You owe me a murder."
And that's where I stopped reading. Whitfield Cook did the rest.
The point is that in the novel, Bruno pressurizes and pressurizes Guy until finally he cracks and agrees to do the murder. He goes and kills the father. Mr. Whitfield Cook's treatment says he doesn't.
And you don't care for that?
Frankly, I don't. It's a betrayal of the whole central idea.
What central idea?
Of shared guilt. Of guilt driving somebody crazy.
But that's an abstract idea. It's taking place inside somebody's brain. I deal in moving pictures.
So, if I accept Mr. Cook's treatment, Guy pretends to Bruno he's going to kill his father, and we go through a whole sequence in which we believe that's what he's going to do, but in fact, he's coming to warn the father. But when he gets into the bedroom and warns the father isn't there. It's Bruno in bed waiting. It's ridiculous.
You forget the dog.
The dog?
Oh, didn't I tell you about the dog? I must apologize, but it helps enormously. The dog on the staircase. The guard dog whom Guy has to placate to get upstairs. The dog's not expected, so the audience will be very anxious. Guy will be nervous and smooth the dog's muzzle. The dog might bark, but it doesn't. The audience will be on edge. They'll forget about the fact that Guy is going to murder a man he's never met.
Except when Guy gets to the bedroom, it's Bruno. A man in bed, smiling at a man who he's chatted up, who's been employed to murder his father. Why not just say these two men are homos?
It's very perverse, isn't it?
It's disturbing.
Well, of course. Isn't that its essential charm?
But how can you get this sort of material past the production code office?
Well, I'm a Catholic boy. I go to the production office and I discuss my problems with them and listen carefully to all their suggestions. Then I do exactly what I want. It's very like going to confession.
But Miss Highsmith's version of what happens is the only truthful one.
Truthful but dull.
You're not giving her enough respect.
I'm giving her a fee instead.
I understand what's going on in this novel. You don't.
I don't care to. Content doesn't matter. I'm only interested in effect.
So you keep saying. We've sat here for hours talking about every subject under the sun except the goddamn book, and now finally we're talking about it, and you don't want to listen.
Raymond, I'm sure you can produce dialogue as witty and enchanting as in your novels.
I wish I shared your optimism. My head is reeling.
An excellent state for it to be in.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I need a drink. Several drinks, in fact. I don't know what more I'd have said if Sissy hadn't appeared. She'd decided to get Jose to help her into the garden to meet Mr. Hitchcock. I suppose it was something to do with The Lady Vanishes.
She was not the mad woman in the attic. She was rather charming in a faded, old-fashioned way, which in cinematic terms is much more unnerving than a raving madwoman. She was dressed young, but she must have been 80 if she was a day. I felt a twinge of sympathy for Raymond Chandler. He was clearly devoted both to her and his cat, and both were not far from death.
I trusted Sissy's instincts. She didn't like him. In fact, she said she thought he was rather common. He reminded her of the fat boy in Dickens' Pickwick Papers who said, "I wants to make your flesh creep." That decided me. He goaded me, deliberately. I would show the bastard as I'd shown the bastards before. So, now I was going to produce the finest goddamn screenplay of my entire career, and it was going to end in guilt and madness, and everything Mr. Hitchcock didn't want.
Of course, I discussed it all with Alma. His books are full of incomprehensible plots and delicately hinted perversion, fueled by deliciously tart dialogue. Why couldn't he give that to me? How could he have turned out to have been one of those tedious creatures who insist everything must make sense? I made my next visit to La Jolla with sinking heart. There was still a chance he could give me what I wanted. I yearned to have dialogue like his in one of my movies. I just hoped he wasn't going to be too drunk. Raymond!
Hitch! Come in, Mr. Hitch, my lord and master. Enter. Have a drink.
I remember thinking, oh dear, he's very drunk.
I remember, well, not a lot.
Your good health.
Yours? Well, what do you think? Hitch, I can hardly bear to call him that, stared at my offering with the eye of a man holding a rotting portion of fish and chips in a scrap of filthy newspaper.
So, in the end, Guy goes mad.
You said the ending was an anticlimax.
It still is.
How can it be when your leading man is in a straitjacket?
Shall I tell you my idea for the end of this movie?
I take it that it's not the same as mine.
The sluttish wife is murdered in a fairground. I like fairgrounds, but the novel never returns to the fairground. For some reason or another.
No, there has to be some reason.
Yes, but it's not important. Bruno wants to play something that proves Guy is guilty of his wife's death. A cigarette lighter would do. Now, in the fairground, there's a carousel, a merry-go-round, and that's where the final sequence takes place. The two men are struggling for ownership of this object, while the carousel spins round and round, getting more and more out of control. A little old man creeps underneath and pulls the brake, which makes the carousel stop, but, of course, it's going so fast that it spins out of control, and Bruno is killed, and Guy is vindicated because he has the cigarette lighter, or pair of sunglasses, or whatever the screenwriter decides is appropriate.
You'd end the movie like that.
Why not? The audience will be giddy, their heads will be reeling, they'll be so excited and relieved when it's over.
The image of the merry-go-round, or carousel, or whatever you want to call it, spinning out of control. I think I've come across this before.
Oh, you're well informed.
It comes from an English detective story called The Moving Toy Shop by an author called Edmund Crispin.
My lawyers are clearing the rights at this very moment.
Edmund Crispin's work represents everything that I detest about English detective writing. Smug literary references and quirky academics moonlighting as private detectives. Implausible murders with not a hint of the color of blood or the smell of death.
I don't defend his work. I take what I need.
Yes, you do, don't you? You are without principle. You are without artistic integrity. Do you seriously believe that a farrago of gratuitous fairground hokum is a satisfactory conclusion to a study of shadows and guilt?
I'm afraid I do.
Then I want nothing to do with this project. If we continue, then not only will Guy be in the straitjacket, I'll be there too.
Well, two in one straitjacket is a bit of a squeeze.
Particularly if one of them is you. Go on, you fat bastard, get out of my house. Squeeze yourself back into your limousine. Get out!
Well, this has certainly been a robust exchange of opinion.
Get out, you fat bastard! Get out, now! Sissy calmed me. She stroked my hair and played my favorite nocturne. She said I was clearly right. I still didn't dare to tell her what that bastard had said about our cat.
I held up the first draft of Mr. Chandler's script before her eyes, and I held my nose, and then page by page I ripped it apart and dropped it in the bin. She was Sensi Ormond. She was biddable and smart and just what the project needed. If Warner Brothers hadn't been quite so keen for prestige, I might have found her earlier.
I carried on working because I was being paid and because I owed it to myself. I'd like to say to Miss Highsmith as well, but I've never met her and probably never will. I sent the revised screenplay off to Warner Brothers. My work was good. I received no word from Mr. Call Me Hitchcock. Omit the hitch and add the cock. Eventually, 6 months after we'd started work, I found out that the bastard had got someone else to write his goddamn screenplay.
I felt bad. Actually, I didn't care. He was an impossible drunk, and he'd been paid very handsomely for utterly unusable work. Farley Granger played Guy. I wanted William Holden, who had a dangerous masculinity towards which dear Farley could not aspire. Still, he looked very pleasant in tennis shorts. But when it came to the credits, there was a twist.
There was a twist. Sensi Ormond, who had dutifully done what Mr. Hitchcock asked, was not a name. Well, it's quite a name, but you know what I mean. So Warner Brothers
said, we have to have Raymond Chandler's name on the credits. He has the prestige we need for this project. So, reluctantly, 8 months after my first visit, I went to talk to him.
There is nothing in this screenplay as filmed to which I would lay claim.
I agree.
I disagree with every decision you have made about this script. The carousel sequence at the end is a mindless triumph of cinematic bravura over truth.
I don't necessarily see that as a criticism.
So, what did I give to this screenplay?
Astonishingly little.
Is it moral for me to take a screenplay credit?
Well, this is Hollywood. If you're offered a credit, take it. Do you want me to apologize?
You're an arrogant fat bastard.
Well, you're slimmer than I am, but the rest applies.
Everybody will think that this screenplay was written by Raymond Chandler when it wasn't.
That's movies, Raymond. Just smile for the camera. Strangers on a Train was a huge success. The leads, apart from Robert Walker, were weak, and the script was poor. But the carousel sequence was a triumph.
No guts, no characters, no dialogue. But, of course, it's Hitchcock, and a Hitchcock picture always does have something.
I went on to create any number of scary movies. One of them did end with a man staring at the camera ready for the straitjacket. The moral is, well, there are no morals in the movies.
I never wrote another screenplay, to Sissy's great relief. Instead, I went on to write my last fully completed novel. It was called The Long Goodbye. Oh, and our cat died soon after.
In Strangers on a Film by Stephen Wyatt, Raymond Chandler was played by Patrick Stewart and Alfred Hitchcock by Clive Swift. The director was Claire Grove.